on the Western Hotline is Mr. Howard Simon, who I texted this morning. He said, I'm up. You're up early. Did you go to bed because the Mets blew a lead in the eighth inning to the Braves? Something that I looked up just before I brought you on. Did you go to bed in the eighth? What'd you do, Howard?
Click. Sorry, I was just hanging up on you.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing out that the Mets blew another.
I just needed to know what mindset you were in coming in.
I just want to know, does it really frustrate you when your co-host takes time off?
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm
used to it. I'm used to it.
Yeah. Nice to see you can still, at your age, it's nice to see you're still able to do the job, though. I got to be honest.
That's true. You're not wrong about that. Well, Howard, we got you to talk a little bit about, we'll get to James Cook and all that stuff and some Bill stuff, but I did want to talk to you today, and I wanted to reach out to you last night about Art Wander and the passing of Art Wander. But then I saw this morning you posted a piece at our website at WGR550.com. And to me, that was my green light to all right, I definitely want to have you on to talk about him and remember him because, he was a legend here, of course. I mean, everybody knows Art.
Yeah, he was. It's a really kind of an interesting story. And my as I wrote in the article, my opinion of Art is like a complete 180 once I got to know him. I mean, I think it's we always talk. You know what it reminded me of, Jeremy? Like when we watch these, we have teams we don't like and players we don't like. And then you watch like a behind-the-scenes show, Hard Knocks, or one of the old NHL behind-the-scenes shows, and you get to know the guy, and you're like, oh, he's not the you-know-what that I thought he was. He's not a terrible human being. And Art, for me, that was Art. Not personally, but from a broadcasting standpoint, when I got here, Art was, I think, at 1400 a.m., and then he goes over to GR. I go from JJL to BEN, and I'm really in competition with the guys at GR, including Art, and I was not a big fan. I just thought Art was I don't know. I just thought he was a little too bombastic for my like. Of course, he had the famous incident or the famous show that led to the Polian famous tirade of if Jim Keller's our quarterback, Ted Marchibrodo's our offensive coordinator. If you don't like it, get out of town. That was basically Art he was talking about. So I just wasn't a huge fan of his. I thought, wow, this guy's a real jerk. And then I met him at Empire. We worked together at Empire. And he was just one of the nicest guys in the world. He would go out of his way to help anybody and everybody. Broadcasting critique, whatever. Here's what you did well. Here's what you didn't do well. Hey, try this, try that. Share stories with you. Pat on the back if the show didn't go well. Handshake if it was a good show. Just whatever was needed. He was there for everybody. It wasn't just the on-air guys. He was friends with the production people and the directors and the producers and everybody. He's just like the nicest guy in the world. He always had a smile on his face. He always had a really funny story to tell. He was like a Pied Piper when anybody had their kids come into the building to visit. Yeah, I just totally changed my opinion. I thought he was one kind of person based on listening to him. And then I met him and I thought, wow, this guy is just a really super guy, let alone his backstory in the business before he even started talking sports for a living, which is amazing.
Yeah. So take us through some, what you laid out there a story about the Bill Polian and all that. How did that come to be? It's a famous incident. What year? I mean, for the younger generation, that would have been a big moment.
Yeah, I think I don't remember.
Sorry,
exactly
older generation.
I thought I read. Yeah, right. For the Bills,
for you guys
who were in the Super Bowl year, sure. By the way, thanks. You're not in the older generation yet. I think I don't know. It was 89, 90, somewhere in there. And right when the Bills were really, really good, and then no huddle was coming in, and all that. And they hit a little bit. I don't know the exact. I remember the exact details, but they hit a little bit of a skid. They weren't playing so well. And I think Art was at 1,400 at that point, not at GR yet. And he just started, they were trying the no huddle. And the problem is when the no huddle doesn't work, when it didn't work, guess what? They'd go 3 and out in like 40 seconds, and the defense would be right back on the field again. So it really put a lot of stress on the defense if they went 3 and out. So, people were getting a little bit critical of Marchibroda and Kelly and well, I don't know if this is a good idea. It puts too much on the defense. Art was critical of it, and this just in, Bill Polian, not a really big fan of critical media. If you said something against the Bills, not out of the question you would hear about it directly from the general manager of the Buffalo Bills at the time. So, Art said what he said, and he didn't name him by name, but everybody knew who Polian was talking about. And I don't know if he was at like a luncheon, like just speaking at a function or something like that, and he just went off. And man, when Polian I never saw it personally, but I've heard stories about from people who were on the beat. When Polian was mad, he would explode. And it was, people like our rants. You kidding me? So he goes on this rant about Art and the quarterback and the coordinator, and it was just like, I think honestly, for a lot of people, that Art became famous. If he wasn't well known in the market as a sports talk show host, because again, he was on 1400, not exactly a big, powerful, famous radio station. When that happened, Art's stock went like sky high. Everybody knew who Art Wander was, and he eventually goes over to GR, and he develops a really great audience.
Howard, as you're kind of laying out the idea of when a good team had problems, that how many parallels do you see to today's Bills and like the 90s Bills? And I know this team hasn't made a single Super Bowl, but they've been consistently excellent. And any conversation about what it's going to take to get them the rest of the way there. Do you see parallels, like people thinking, change something, it's not working?
Oh, God,
it feels like the same thing all over again?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? I mean, there were times when people got really upset. There were times I remember. I got hired at BEN in January of '93. I think I have this right. Whatever. I got hired right before the first Super Bowl against Dallas. The Leon Lett game, the blowout, all that stuff. Right. So one of my first assignments was to do the post-game show. We didn't have the contract. The contract was on GR. One of my first assignments. So the Bills just made the Super Bowl for the third straight year. One of my first assignments was to host a post-game show the night of that Super Bowl. And they get blown out. And people are calling up saying trade Jim Kelly. People were calling up saying fire Marv Levy. They wanted like blood in the streets because they had just lost a third straight Super Bowl. So there were times, there was a year, again, I'm sorry, I'm mixing up the years here, but right. Kelly gets hurt. And Frank Reich goes on, and not the comeback. I want to say it might have been like a playoff win maybe in Pittsburgh. Anyway, Frank comes in. They win a road playoff game. I think it was the year they went to Miami for the AFC Championship game. Kelly came back. People were calling the station that week going, don't play Kelly. The guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, he's the best quarterback prior to Josh in Bills history. And people are calling up saying, play Frank. He's better than Kelly. Kelly's a bum. Yeah, this just in. We as fans get nuts. And even back then, when they were the 1 seed and they were winning division titles and they were averaging 12-4, people would still call up and want to get rid of the quarterback, or people would be angry at Bruce Smith. He didn't have enough sacks. Yeah, it happens. Even when you're really, really good, when you're that good, if you don't get to the Super Bowl and win it, people want to blame people. So yeah, it happens all the time, even back then in the golden years.
Howard Simon in the Western Hotline. We're talking a bit about, he's got a piece up on our website, WGR550.com, remembering a Buffalo broadcasting legend, remembering Art Wander, who passed away at the age of 98. And Howard, should there be a book? Should people have a book about the interesting experiences of Art's life? I mean, you've got stuff in here about the Beatles, among other things.
Right? Like, I knew... So that's part of the fascination of Art, right? Like, again, you have that opinion of someone, you listen to their radio show and say, this guy's just a whack job. Like, he's nuts. And then you meet him, and the first time Art told me, like, he knew the Beatles. Like, I had no idea Art was a bigwig in the music radio business in the 60s and 70s, none at all. And he starts telling me the Beatles story, and I'm just sitting there going, you got to be freaking kidding me about this. This guy lived music history. In fact, I called Bob Kaczynski yesterday because I wanted to get the details straight for the story. Like, I remembered Art told me something about meeting the Beatles, but I couldn't remember all the details. So I called Bob, and, Bob's got a much better memory than I have. So get this story, right? So it's the 1960s. Now, Art, I don't know if you knew that Art was like a big-time programmer of radio stations in the 60s. Like, he programmed stations in national big markets, New York City, Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, and this is, the 60s when rock and roll obviously was taking off. So the Beatles come to the U.S. They do their first U.S. tour. They go to New York City. They play a legendary concert at Shea Stadium in 1965. Art's stationed in New York City. First off, Art's at the stadium. Art's in one of the dugouts at Shea Stadium watching the Beatles play. In the dugout with Art is Mick Jagger, who, had a fair to middling career of his own, and a young, still up-and-coming singer by the name of Diana Ross. So he's hanging out there. He's watching the Beatles. Now, the backstory on this is Art's station in New York is one of the first in the United States to play a new single from the Beatles called A Day in the Life, which if you're a Beatles fan, I mean, for me, that's one of their greatest songs ever. So because he plays it, Brian Epstein, who's been the manager of the Beatles, sends Art a little thank you note. And from what Kaczynski was telling me, Art kept the thank you note from Brian Epstein in his wallet, probably had it right up until the day he passed the other day.
Wow.
But he develops a friendship with Brian Epstein. So Epstein turns to Art and says, hey, Art, you want to come up in the suite and hang out with the Beatles a little bit in our hotel room? So he does. So here's Art Wander hanging out in a hotel suite with John, Paul, George, and Ringo. I mean, come on. This is amazing. This was one of the greatest bands in the history of music. And Art's there playing, telling his station, let's play this A Day in the Life, and becomes friends with the manager and hangs out with the Beatles. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. 98 years old and a legend here, bunch of different stations, bunch of different, not just sports, like you said, like other walks of life or other walks of broadcasting. Like he was everywhere. How connected did he stay? How connected to him did you stay after he retired when he was off the air?
I didn't really. I'm trying to remember. I think he might have moved eventually to Tennessee. So I didn't really stay connected with him. I don't want it to sound like we're close friends. We weren't. I worked together at Empire. He was a really good guy. We would always talk to each other when we saw each other in the building, but I never really stayed connected with him after our time at Empire. When he was still around, I might run into him. I would have run into him every now and then, maybe at a UB game. He would show up at a lot of the UB basketball games. Art was a big sports fan. He would go to the games around here. So I'd see him every now and then, Jeremy, but I lost touch with him. And that's why, when you and I are doing the final show a couple years ago and Kaczynski calls in, because we both worked for Bob at Empire, and Bob plays the recorded message from Art congratulating me on my career and have a great retirement. I look back on it and go, wow, that's really, really cool because of who Art Wander was in his career. That meant so much that he said, oh, Howard's doing his last show. Hey, can you record something for me, Bob? I'd like to play it, like them to play it on the radio station. And that really meant a lot to me, even though, again, hadn't really kept in touch that much with him beyond the Empire years. But he went out of his way to do something like that. But that was Art. That's how nice and how cool Art Wander was for everybody.
He never reached out to criticize your pick the Bills number, like, hey, how come you have him at 12? You should be 13. Nothing like that.
I feel like he might have criticized that. How do you have him at 12? It should be 9.
Yeah.
I feel like it might have gone in the other direction, but no. But again, he was really supportive of us when he was at Empire. We were doing fan TV, and Art was there. Actually, Art had one of the shows they did, Jeremy. They did a show. He and Larry Felser. Larry was the longtime sports editor of the Buffalo News. Great guy. These two guys were giants in the broadcasting business here in Western New York and the print business for Larry. One of the more popular shows we had at Empire was a segment called the Hot Stove Diner. I want to say it was Fridays. I don't remember. I think it was a half-hour show. They built a set to look like a diner, and the guys were sitting at a booth at a diner. And it was, everybody would always watch that. People would always talk about, when's the hot stove? I love the diner. That's great. And it was just Art and Larry hanging out, sitting there talking sports. And it would be a break for us. It would happen inside the fan TV show. So we'd essentially have a half hour. We'd go have a break, come back, finish our show. But inevitably, you would just always turn on the TV or stay in the studio and watch these two guys work. That's how amazing it was to see guys like Art and Larry at work, and people love that segment.
Yeah.
So,
well, now in the era of us
cool
streaming on YouTube, maybe we should get a diner booth over here and we just bring it back. Take the idea and just have a diner booth segment.
It was, and they brought they would bring in real food at times, which if anybody knows Art was kind of famous for occasionally stealing someone's lunch, but they would bring in real food, and they would have food on the diner set. It was just hilarious to watch these guys. Yeah, you know what? I do, by the way, love the fact that we get to see Owen and Josh now on the expanded YouTube version of the morning show. That's really good.
Yes.
I like seeing you guys. It's pretty cool.
Well, hey, it's good to be seen. Howard, before we wrap things up, you can read Howard's piece at WGR550.com, his article, Remembering Art Wander. I will not make you pick the Bills based on James Cook did sign, because I don't think you did it pretending he wasn't on the team, which shows you that I'm losing my fastball, because I should have had you do that like 5 times. But anyway,
I had multiple people in the press box at the Bison's game the other day say, so now the Cook signed, you're picking the Bills, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to make you do it.
You created?
I'm not, well, yeah, it was a wonderful thing. Soon enough, though, we got preseason game number 2. When the end of the preseason, beginning of the season, we'll do an official season pick. But that said, what was your reaction when you saw the Cook news come down? We got breaking news during our show, which was really exciting on Wednesday at 7:30.
That was nice of Brandon Bean to do that for you.
Beautiful, yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think James Cook is a tremendous football player. As for me, like a lot of people, I was like, well, how much do you pay a running back? No offense to James. It's really more about the position and the value you place on the position. So my biggest concern was, what's the number going to be? How's it going to affect the cap? If they extend James Cook, does that mean they're not keeping David Edwards? Do they not, keep Torrance down the road? Or let's see, I think McGovern and Edwards, I think, are free agents after this season. Mm-hmm. So that was my concern, Jeremy. I think he's a tremendous football player. I'd obviously much rather have him on this team. I think they're a much better offense with James Cook on it. I'd like to see James Cook get a little bit more action and maybe get some more touches than he got last season, even though they're very deep at running back. So I'm thrilled he's here. I'm glad he's sticking around for, the extension. That's great. And it sounds like it's not going to be a big problem, at least for the next 2 years with the cap. I want to say, what is it, like in 27, his cap number shoots up to like 13. So down the road, they're going to have an issue. But the other thing that was cool, Cook getting done, is all the heavy lifting was also done, right? Josh's contract was restructured, Shakir, Bernard, Benford, like all the key players that you would identify and say, man, you got to keep these guys. They're part of the core. That was all done. And then you got Cook done. So you didn't have to sacrifice any of those guys. And now it's just a matter of, hey, what happens with, McGovern and Edwards next year. I'm fine. I think the contract's okay. I think they're good for 25. They're good for 26. We have this discussion in 27. What do you do about James Cook's contract?
Yeah. Well, will he get more snaps? That's a good question. Bean talked yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yeah, 2 days ago maybe, that they like the mix they've got. And I think that's actually the right approach. Maybe I might have him out on the field on the final drive, even though you don't trust him to, in pass protection. When you need an explosive player in an explosive situation, I might want to put him out there. But other than that, snap counts, keep him fresh, however you want to say it. They're paying him for being good at exactly what they asked him to be good at. And I think sometimes paying a player and then asking them to be more than that might be a mistake.
Yeah, and I don't mean I think his snap count last year was like 48%. I'm not talking about boosting him up to like 70, but mid-50s.
Yeah.
Maybe just just a handful of more touches every game. I mean, it still is about getting the ball in the hands of your best players. He's one of their best offensive players, probably number 2 behind the quarterback. So I'm good with getting his hands on the ball a little bit more often.
Howard Simon on the Western Hotline. One last thing, Howard. There's another. You could make a case to Owen if you want here. However many years ago it was when you were going to pick a Premier League team to root for, Owen's picking one today at 9:30. We've had a week of getting him some information. He's doing his own research, and he'll declare, like LeBron when LeBron went to Miami. Owen will declare who his Premier League team that he's going to root for is. I know that however many years ago I gave you Tottenham. And you've been every time I see you now, you're wearing your Tottenham scarf. You wake up every morning thinking about your Spurs, right? That definitely worked.
So Harry Kane, is he still there? Or
he is not. No.
Okay, so that would show you that I have not kept up on the Spurs.
That'd be like not knowing whether or not Josh Allen is on the Bills, right? Is Harry Kane still there?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
Is this going to be Is this going to be like streamed live? Like
Yes.
you're going to get everybody watching like they did with the LeBron decision?
I think so. I think we'll probably outdo the LeBron numbers.
We're
Will
trying
there
to
be
beat the
people
Taylor Swift
burning Owen
podcast.
Parker jerseys? I mean, if they don't, are people going to go out in the streets and burn Owen Parker old hockey jerseys?
Maybe.
Or?
If he makes the wrong pick, I'm prepared to react accordingly.
Okay.
There's
You don't know who he's picking.
No. He's down to like a final 5 or 6, maybe.
I got 4 left.
Final 4. He's down to his final 4. Yeah. So
Is one of them Arsenal?
yes, of course. I mean, come on. It's the only right
One of them
choice.
Liverpool.
No, he eliminated Liverpool because Liverpool won last year, and it's tough to jump on the winners.
Okay.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to be seen as a front
So you
runner.
got to take that. You got to take an up, and he's not going with like Man U, Man City. He's going like
Those are both options
They're-
in the final 4.
They're both
Howard.
on the
We'll
final
see.
4. Yep.
Wow.
Tottenham,
I don't know if
your
I like
old
you
club
with
is also still included, so I may be joining you in your,
I think I
revelation.
still have the local Tottenham fan club. When you did that, Jeremy, they sent me a nice Spurs hoodie.
Oh, nice.
Pretty sure I still have it.
Nice. You
Although
got a
it
care
won't fit
package.
you.
You got a care package.
I did. I got a nice care package of Spurs goodies, so I don't think it'll fit Owen though.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing your memories of Art, and good luck to the Mets. I saw they lost last night, but they got a good record. And have they survived the worst of this little swoon, or are they still in the swoon?
No, they're still in swoon. They're on pace to like miss the playoffs entirely. This is wonderful.
What do you mean they're
Unbelievable. They're going to miss the playoffs. They won't make the playoffs at this rate.
Really?
They had the best record in Major League Baseball 2 months ago, and I don't even. Are they in the third wild? They're out. They're going to drop out of the wild card.
Yeah, they're 5 games back of the Phillies now, and in the wild card. Yeah, okay, they're in the third spot in the wild card. 1-9 in their last 10. Okay.
They've lost 13 out of 15.
Okay.
They have one of the worst records in Major League Baseball for the last 2 months. The starters, in terms of average innings pitched, they're like 29th in the last 2 months, and they're one of the lowest scoring teams in the last. Other than that, Jeremy, it's going great. Thank you for asking.
All right. Hey, I care. I gotta keep informed on all this. Thanks, Howard.
Yeah, you contribute to my stress level. Always a pleasure, Mr.
Yes.
White. I hope you're doing well.
We'll have you in soon enough to pick the Bills for the true regular season one, as Bills and Ravens in a couple of weeks. Bills and Bears Sunday night, preseason game number 2. Thank you, Howard.